Well, welcome and thank you for joining us on another episode of Boomer Babes Life Travel Podcast. I'm Jaynie Morris-Riggs, founder and creator of Fun at Boomer Babes Life, our global community for women over 50. And as we're doing every week now, Tuesdays are our Travel Tuesdays. But of course, you know that for those of you who follow us regularly, as long as you subscribe, you'll never miss an episode, and you can always go back and listen to other episodes just by going to boomerbabeslife.com and clicking on the podcast link. But today, I'm extra especially excited because we are going to be talking to the beautiful Jo McLaren, who essentially is the I like to call her the head honcho at our travel partners, Phil Hoffman Travel, but of course she wouldn't say that. She's in charge of PR, promotions, and speaking of P, she's going to be talking to us today about Persia and the magic carpet ride. Jo, how are you?
Oh, fantastic. That's so true. I've just slipped back into town, Jaynie, on my magic carpet, all the way from Persia.
Look, I can honestly say I nearly didn't sleep last night in anticipation of today's podcast with you, because your photographs that we have been seeing on social media whilst you've been in Persia have been absolutely incredible. Tell us what's going on here. Persia. Magic carpet.
Well, Phil Hoffman Travel, as you know, puts together some of the most amazing fully escorted group tours. And over a year ago, we put together a beautiful trip to Persia, Discover Persia, which is Iran. And all the excitement and the build-up and getting excited about going. And then finally departure day was some weeks ago. And a group of us headed off, and there was a little bit in the news at the time, Jaynie, about Iran. And so I said, my mum said, where are you going, Jo? And I said, Persia. And she said, oh, that sounds lovely. And I said, oh, it is. And when we arrived into this amazing country, we had more pinch me moments than I've ever had in my life. The travelers, the Phil Hoffman travelers with us, they were saying, I cannot believe we're here. I cannot believe how warm, how friendly, how inviting, how much this wonderful destination has for tourists and travellers. And Jaynie, it was just another world. The culture, the food, I'll talk more about that. Just amazing.
So how did you get there? Now, remembering that many of our listeners are also from outside of Australia and New Zealand. But how did you get there? You left from Australia.
Yes, well, from Adelaide, or the group of us were from Adelaide, and most of us were on Emirates. So we flew from Adelaide to Dubai and in the United Arab Emirates. And then we took another flight and we flew up to Tehran, which was about 1 3/4 hours flight, which is less than from here to Sydney. So a really short flight. And then another couple on the group were flying with Qatar, and they flew into Doha, and once again they just had a short changeover. They had a couple of nights actually, and then flew on and met us in Tehran. So, and then we all met up, and our magic carpet journey started.
Now let's dive into this. So you arrive in Persia, and I know there is a million highlights of this trip that you can share with us, but we don't have time for everything, and we are going to do another podcast with you on this, but give us a little bit of an insight, some of your highlights.
Well, prior to leaving, we had to organise visas. We were told about strict dress regulations, us, wearing a scarf and covering up our bodies and all sorts of things, being respectful for the rich culture of Persian culture and Iran. And so we were all thinking, oh my gosh, whatever. And we had our scarves with us on the plane. We arrived and we, put them on our heads and all looking very glamorous. But Jaynie, the people. I went curious. I don't know if anyone saw Wonderful Journey of Joanna Lumley SBS series Across the Silk Road. This is
Yes,
part of
I saw that.
ancient civilization. One of my highlights was going to Persepolis, an ancient culture that the very center of the Persian Empire, which was one of the greatest empires the world had ever known, pre-Christianity, BC 518 BC, before Christ. So I was curious about these wonderful ancient civilizations, this beautiful culture. I have Persian neighbours, and they were saying, "Joe, you're going to love it." And you think, what am I going to love about this? Jaynie, the people, well educated, 65% of the universities, the women in universities, and the food, pomegranates and couscous and gorgeous food, and the history, the culture, the boutique hotels, and so many German, French, Spanish travellers. It's a mainstream destination for European travellers. That's what overwhelmed me. Here in Australia, we don't, not a lot of us travel to Iran or Persia and learn about the Persian culture and this ancient country. But so we didn't see a lot of other Australian travellers, but European travellers everywhere, and just the most friendliest, easiest, safe, delicious, curious, culturally rich and diverse destination all of us had ever been to. We kept on going, we cannot believe we're here. This is the best holiday. It's amazing.
So many of the photographs, well, not many, most of them, one of the things that struck me was the colours, Joe. You know, every photograph, the colours of the architecture and the venues that you were at. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, these magnificent buildings, these magnificent mosques and temples, and Jaynie, the art, the tile work of the Middle East, the architecture of the Middle East, some of the greatest scholars, mathematicians, we're talking about ancient civilization. Some of your history buffs would have heard of Achaemenid. So we're talking of ancient cultures that started in this part of the world and then they spread from there. So we have got ancient civilizations, the beautiful architecture of these magnificent big domes. You walk into a mosque and everyone's welcome, even the most sacred mosques of pilgrimage. We were welcomed. We felt like privileged guests. We felt like honoured guests to be there. And yes, we respectfully were dressed in the chador when we went into some of the most sacred places. But the architecture, the wonder of the design, the mathematics, the engineering, the beauty, the sophistication, the poetry, we're talking about some of the most sophisticated civilizations on the planet, Jaynie.
Wow. I'm so fascinated about this because, as you said at the beginning of our travel podcast today, Joe, it's not a destination that's on most people's list. Yet everything that the picture that you're painting for us right now, and as I've already said, that I've already seen a lot of the photographs, and for our listeners, you'll be able to see some of these photographs on our website at boomababeslife.com shortly, is that it's just to make, like, I really want to go.
And also it was fun wearing, we wore scarves, so we respectfully wore headscarves, but oh gosh, and the scarves are in abundance. You just want to go, I want that one. I want that one. And it's such a cheap destination. So it was always exciting meeting for breakfast and going, oh, that's new. Oh, you got a new scarf on. Of course, we'd drape it around our heads. We got used to it after about the second day, and they became fashion items. And then you go to each other, seriously, how many scarves can we possibly own? This is ridiculous. We can't keep buying them. There is, girls, we're acting like bowerbirds. We're the peacocks. We're getting all a bit frilly and pretty, and we need to get on with the history here. We need to concentrate. And the men are standing there looking at us and saying, "You done? Can we please get on with visiting women?" You know what we're like.
I do. So I'm from what you've just said, then I'm assuming that markets play a big part of the culture of
Jaynie. some of the bazaars, and people will be familiar with, if they've been to Turkey and Istanbul, of the incredible Grand Bazaar. So these magnificent old bazaars or trading places you go into still exist to this day, and there's Persian carpets and there's clothes and there's everything. People buy their spices. Picture those spices all piled up in beautiful, like, ups to peaks, and all the colours and the saffron, and that's where you shop. Yes, there's modern shopping centres in Tehran, but these ancient, this is a Silk Road, this is ancient trading from thousands, hundreds, thousands of years BC. And you go into these old bazaars that trade and bustle, and there's gold and there's silver and there's bronze, and there's the artisans making. And this isn't for tourists, Jaynie. This is their own culture. This is their life. And you sometimes would be the only visitors in the bazaar, and you'd get this shy look. A child would look up at you, or a woman would look at you, and this beautiful big grin on her face, and you just go, my gosh, we feel so privileged to be here. And a child might quietly walk up to you in one of the old merchants' homes that have been converted into a boutique hotel and just say, hello. And you'd say, hello. And they'd say, where are you from? And we'd say, Australia. And they would say, Austria. That's lovely. And we'd just kind of go, yes. And they'd say, thank you for coming to our country. And they'd say, what do you like about our country? And we would say, the people. You're beautiful. You are so elegant and well-educated and sophisticated and welcoming of us. We feel so privileged to be in your beautiful country, and we cannot thank you enough. And they would say, thank you so much for coming. Please tell your friends to come. And that's what it was like. You just felt this gracious, elegant, beautiful, Jaynie, beautiful, beautiful people. And, these black eyes, these women, and a scarf would drop off the head a little bit. And there were other times we'd be on a bus. We wanted to travel on local buses, local trains, go to little restaurants. And because there's no alcohol, even though we went to Sheroes, the home of the Sheroes grape, well, not legally, there's no alcohol. And so when you go out, you go to a tea house and you try these beautiful teas. And I had a tea that had black peppercorns, mint, saffron, and all sorts of beautiful, beautiful flavours in it. And you go, how could you possibly, like, it's almost like it's a culinary journey. It was just, the food was just exceptional, the flavours. And yes, didn't have a glass of wine or anything for weeks and didn't miss it. Yeah. Didn't even think about it.
Well, clearly from everything that you're sharing with us, all of your senses are just completely activated all the time anyway in this beautiful part of the world. And I think one of the great things is that going on an organised tour like you've actually created and took this time as well, it's always a great way for your first introduction into a beautiful part of the world such as Persia. Jo, we could talk for ages on this, and I know that we are going to come back at another stage and do another podcast on this, but for the moment we'd like to say thank you so much. You had a fabulous time. For our listeners, you can just go to our website. You can see the photographs. They're all going to be up now so that you can see exactly what Jo is talking about. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe, like, and if you've got any comments or any questions for Jo, please put them in the comments section below. She'll be more than happy to help you. And remember, if you contact Jo direct or contact anybody at our Boomer Babes Life travel partner, Phil Hoffman Travel, mention Boomer Babes Life. And if you want to discuss anything in regards to Persia, then let them know that you've heard this travel podcast with the beautiful Jo McLaren. Jo, thank you so much for sharing your magic carpet ride with us today on our Boom Babes Life Travel Podcast.
Thank you, Jaynie. I'm off on my magic carpet again now.
Look forward to talking to you again on our next Boomer Babes Life Travel Podcast. And as I mentioned before, if you've missed any podcast, please just go to boomerbabeslife.com. hit the podcast section, go down to travel, and you'll be able to catch up with all the other fabulous travel podcasts that Joe and Krista and others have shared with us. In the meantime, create an absolutely fabulous day.